Welcome to the June 10th special board meeting.
Go roll call.
I'm just pulling up the correct agenda. I got the wrong one. If we could have a roll call, please.
Jim Batson, Kara Benjamin,
Here.
John Carmichael.
Here.
Hara Drumkey,
Here.
Lisa Hessel,
Here.
Middleash Cotwell,
Here.
Sonal Kulkarni.
Here.
We note 6 of our 7 members present. At this time, we'd like to have an invitation for public comment. There is no one in the room with us, so we are going to move right on. We plan to convene in closed session to discuss collective negotiating matters under 5 ILCS 120/2C2. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to convene in closed session.
Do we need to do the pledge first, or do you want to wait until
Let's
later?
wait.
We can wait.
May I have a
So
motion
moved.
to convene in closed session?
Carmichael, move to adjourn
Convene in
to
closed session? Thank you.
Kulkarni, second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
I'm working on it. Kara Benjamin,
Yes.
John Carmichael.
Yep.
Hara Drumkey,
Aye.
Lisa Hessel,
Aye.
Middleash Cotwell,
Aye.
Sonal Kulkarni.
Aye.
Okay, we are convened in closed session. When we move to reconvene, no further action will be taken and the meeting will be adjourned. And we will see everybody back here when we're done.
Board is currently in closed session. 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 Board is currently in closed session.
Can I have a motion and a second to return to open session, please?
Carmichael, so moved.
Drumkey, second.
Voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. May we have a motion and a second to adjourn the special meeting at 5:37 PM?
Carmichael, move to adjourn.
Benjamin, second.
Voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned and we are ready to roll into our
PNP meeting.
Yes.
P&P.
Hi,
And I will
everybody.
turn it
Welcome
over
to the
Mr.
PNP
Carmichael.
meeting. Okay. So I'd like to call the PNP meeting to order. Our first order of business is to say the Pledge of Allegiance, if you all would rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Under communication, first item of business is an invitation for public comment. I did see a sign-in sheet. Did I? Okay, thank you for your patience there. There are 5 people signed in. If you did not sign in, that does not mean that you can't speak before the board. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Our first one up is Katie Zager.
Hello, my name is Katie Zager. To the board members that asked the tough questions, thank you. To the board members that ran on the platform of supporting the teachers and being the voice of the community, but who are now doing the exact opposite, what happened to you? You're supposed to be the voice of the community, not the silencers of our voice. The superintendent's retort after the teachers' union address managed to disregard everyone and everything has been said, making it clear how distorted your views of yourself and the reality are. You claim there's only a small number of concerned community members, but you disregard the over 1,000 petition signatures and the hundreds of us that showed up in person and tuned in to voice our concerns. At what point did you decide that the 7 of you know better than the teachers and the rest of the community? When you say you're following the law, when did you hear us say break the law? We said you have not demonstrated that you're ready to implement these initiatives in a way that won't fail our students. We say wait and figure out how to do it properly. We say wait and don't roll out multiple initiatives all at once that will make it impossible to discern what worked and what didn't. But on the topic of breaking the law, I wonder where the FERPA law stands on you publishing students' educational information without consent on the Diagonal Movers pamphlet. You're setting the students up for failure, the same students you say you're fighting for. No one is against giving kids access to high-level courses if there are proper supports in place to ensure they're successful, if teachers are armed with tools to teach to various ability levels within the same class, if parents are aware of the context and the implication of their kids being recommended for high-level courses and have an option to move down a level during the semester if it becomes too much, and if the initiative doesn't jeopardize the quality of education provided to all students in that class. Rolling out half-baked plans will only cause unnecessary stress and confusion and will ultimately hurt the very students you're supposedly advocating for. If anything, the teachers, the parents, and the community are the ones fighting for the students. You, on the other hand, appear to be fighting for a checkbox to meet some sort of a metric. Looking to pat yourself on the back that you force-fitted more students into higher-level courses without any regard if they will be successful once in them. You're focused on the immediate win versus the long-term student success and their mental well-being going forward. Superintendent Herman, you're trying to paint yourself as a lone leader fighting for what is right. But in reality, you come across as a stubborn child who, when confronted with the mess they created, is doubling down in denial of all wrongdoing instead of owning up to it and making it right. Stop it. Thank you.
Okay, Mary Kate.
Hello, my name is Mary Kate Shanebeck, and I just finished my 15th year as an English teacher at Libertyville High School. But today I stand before you on behalf of the D128 Teachers Union, representing the collective voice of our dedicated educators who are deeply committed to the success and well-being of our students and our school community. It was 2 years ago when I first heard about the term vote of no confidence. At the time, I was serving as union secretary, and our members began asking us about this potential action step. The executive board investigated what this might mean, and we decided this was not something we wanted to pursue. And I'm glad we didn't at the time. There was certainly a growing discontent among our membership, but we also wanted to continue to try to work with Dr. Herman. In fact, when our current union executive board took over last May, our new union leadership felt the same way. We were committed to trying to foster a collaborative relationship with Dr. Herman and her administrative team. We also wanted to find a way to open more communication to you, the school board, as well. In pursuit of these goals, over the past year, our union has taken the initiative to make statements at each board meeting to highlight the issues and challenges facing our membership. We brought up concerns over sectioning numbers, concerns over the chaotic feel of too many initiatives at once, concerns regarding the use of expensive outside consultants, concerns over how the MTSS plans would be implemented next year, not to be confused with the concerns over the law itself or Dr. Herman's incorrect statement that our staff does not support change. We did this in an effort to shed light on the realities your staff was experiencing and listened eagerly to the board meetings where we hope to hear productive discussions regarding these pressing issues. We brought up the same concerns at Labor Management Committee meetings and in weekly meetings between our union president and Dr. Herman. We even resorted to filing 3 grievances, something that was foreign to us since our union had only filed 1 grievance prior to this year. Despite all this, our members continued to express overwhelming frustration and disillusionment with the current state of affairs, and they began to ask again for more information regarding a vote of no confidence in Dr. Herman. It became our obligation as a union executive board to listen and to act accordingly. We did not take this vote lightly, nor did our membership, and our members were unwavering in their response. These were not the voices of a disgruntled few. It was a reflection of the resounding sentiment of our membership, with an overwhelming 90% of membership voting and 99% voting in favor of expressing no confidence in Dr. Herman. From where I stand, the majority of your staff is once again trying to speak to you, the board, loudly and clearly. They do not trust Dr. Herman at the helm of D128. This vote serves as a clear indication of the urgent need for accountability, transparency, and more effective leadership within our district. It is a call to action for the school board to heed the concerns of not only its educators, but its students and community, as we saw during the public comment last meeting. While an invitation to discuss with you in today's closed session was certainly welcomed, the damage has unfortunately already been done, and we see no way of repairing the relationship between 293 educators and Dr. Herman. We urge the board to consider seriously the voices of its staff, to engage in meaningful dialogue, and to take decisive action by removing Dr. Herman. Thank you.
Monica Caldecott. Okay, Marnie Navarro.
Good evening. My name is Marnie Navarro, proud District 70 and District 128 graduate and parent of an incoming gifted District 70 student. I speak for myself. I and 27 other deeply concerned parents, taxpayers, students, and community members last spoke to you on May 20th at the most surreal board meeting, followed by Union President Monica Caldecott, who presented a 99.2% of voting union members' vote of no confidence and calling for the immediate termination of Superintendent Herman. Following the loud bipartisan united cry of all stakeholder groups in our community, Superintendent Herman proceeded to deliver the most chilling, intransigent, unyielding, tone-deaf, and combative prepared speech, reflecting a complete unwillingness, or more aptly, inability to take any ownership whatsoever. much less demonstrate any empathy or genuine concern for the chaos and deep division she has wreaked upon our community. If you're not familiar with disordered personalities, it was textbook. A truly breathtaking display of narcissism and hubris, gaslighting, victim complex, egotism, megalomania, projection. Despite her claim that this was her calm and peaceful leadership, it's delusion of grandeur. And yet this board did not flinch, like you didn't flinch at our 1,100 signature petitions by tax-paying voters, hundreds of emails, and months of engagement and speaking at months of committee and board meetings. Board of Education President Lisa Hessel, Don Carmichael, Jim Batson, and Kara Benjamin didn't even pretend to listen to or care about our students, teachers, schools, community, and tax dollars. You seem more concerned with stalwartly refusing to admit that you've been snowed, owning up to letting this charade proceed for 3 years and costing our district millions, versus accepting that costly mistakes have been made and focusing on remediating the damage and fallout. Your obstinance and ego have a huge price tag, one that will not be borne by you, but rather by our students at the price of their educations, mental health, and college and career readiness, and by our taxpayers for many years to come. For those of you who continue to listen to the May 20th board meeting online, at the 4-hour, 28-minute mark, yes, I was still awake and watching, Don Carmichael mocked our petition as flawed. Superintendent Herman called me an elitist, nice, and accused me and our entire community and all teachers of fearing change. Ms. Benjamin, you accused us of spreading stale and false information, and also in a laugh-out-loud, absurd display of hubris and gaslighting. Ms. Carmichael, you responded to Ms. Kulkarni's accurate and common-sense observation that where there's smoke, there's fire. You encouraged her and other board members to fan away the smoke. No, Ms. Benjamin, you may continue to choose to be complicit in this delusion and farce, but we don't have to, and neither should the rest of you. And by the way, Ms. Herman, elitism is defined as thinking that you know better and are better than everyone else. You know, like you apparently think you know and are better than 99.2% of our teachers, our students, our parents, our taxpayers, and our community members. Don't project that onto me. I'm very well versed in narcissist. So no, Ms. Herman, we are not afraid of change, and neither are 99.2% of our teachers. We're afraid of you and what you've done and continue to do to our districts, our students, and the rigor of our school's curriculum and our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. We are repulsed. We are ashamed. We are enraged. I'm almost done that this board continues to allow you to do it. There will be a reckoning, and it will be at the ballot box. 5 of 7 of these board seats are up for election in spring 2025. We, community, must take back this board who absolutely does not represent our community and constituents and save our schools, our students, and our property values. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Avery?
My name is Avery Kamai. I'm a VHHS graduate and just finished my 2nd year in the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University. I'm also a member of the Hutton Honors College and serve on the Hutton Council in a leadership role. I'm here because I'm concerned for the experience my younger sister will have in her 3 remaining years at VHHS. I worry about the current and future students who will suffer from the consequences of your actions. The actions of a Board of Education and a superintendent who don't know what it means to be a leader, don't know how to listen, and don't care. I've experienced leadership at Vernon Hills from teachers, administrators, and other staff members. I've experienced leadership in part-time jobs, and I experience a lot of leadership in my current role as a student and a student leader. I wanted to share a different quote from Dr. Brene Brown. A brave leader is someone who says, I see you, I hear you. I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to keep listening and asking questions. Leadership is showing up during the hard times, no doubt, but leadership is also about leaning in, engaging, having difficult conversations, and really listening to your stakeholders. You are here to serve your stakeholders, the students, the staff, and the community. The behaviors demonstrated from this administration and the Board of Education have not exemplified leadership. You don't like the feedback you're receiving, so you're ignoring it and proceeding with your plan, seemingly ignoring your stakeholders. You're insistent on keeping up this charade under the guise of doing the right thing, but ignoring the mountain of feedback you've received because you're not really listening. Our district is an enviable position by any other account. Top-tier teaching talent, a budget surplus, engaged parents and community members, and your stakeholders are all asking you to pause and replan. I'm leaving you with another quote, this time from an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We're asking you to show up as true leaders for this community. Get vulnerable. Admit you don't have the answers. Commit to listening to your stakeholders and then making the necessary adjustments together. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the names that are on the sheet. If there's anybody else that would like to, please step up to the mic.
John Hetzel. You know, I don't really like coming up here, but it just seems like you keep beating your head against the wall and sooner or later somebody's going to break through. You can't lead if you don't have any followers, Ms. Herman. You don't have any followers. Ms. Hessel, same with you. So you guys can keep on your path, keep marching on, but in due process, we will take care of the circumstances that are here today that seem to be bothering the community, the teachers, the students. You are not listening to your constituents, and you are not providing the right course of action. We have 4 board members too that we know are very clear and supportive of it, like you, Ms. Hessel and Ms. Herman, but you guys have become pariahs in this community. And you're going to be your legacy. Good luck with that, because you are alienating everybody here. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Hi, Gwen Jansen. I have 2 kids at Vernon Hills High School. I'm just here to share the results of the FOIA regarding freshman sectioning. I sent them to the board members earlier today. I was very concerned to hear that nothing is being addressed or even acknowledged regarding the explosive acceleration of freshmen. Their numbers have not been included in any previous presentations. And while a picture has been painstakingly crafted for you that there are only 17 additional students moving diagonally due to the APA, our freshman population is being led to slaughter. Freshman enrollment is down 9.7% at LHS for next year and 8.3% at VHHS. But honors freshman lit is up 50% at VHHS and up 29% at LHS. There are 8 additional honors and AP classes affecting freshmen in these two, in Vernon Hills High School alone, excuse me. And that amounts to roughly 325 more accelerated placements than last year. It's difficult to really ascertain the true impact of the APA on some of the other courses because they're not freshman exclusive, but you should just know that there are double the number of honors geometry classes at Vernon Hills for next year, 2 last year, 4 this year. And there's an additional section at LHS as well. That's roughly 75 additional kids taking one of what is arguably one of the most challenging courses for underclassmen in our building. And we don't have anything to support them. Mr. Wegley, you took issue with my comment about nothing to support 9th graders at the last meeting. I'm not talking about the 9th graders that are coming out of the Striving Learners group. I'm talking about the 9th graders that have been accelerated into honors and AP, and there is nothing for those kids. That pause is not for those kids. Okay, the MASH and the ARC are not for those kids, and they're already not enough for the kids we have. They're certainly not going to be able to support the acceleration of these hundreds of additional freshmen in honors and AP. The only new thing that we have being proposed is varsity tutors. You're suggesting that struggling students should ask a friend or go online with random off-site varsity tutors when they're struggling. That's shirking our responsibility to meet the needs of our students. It puts the onus on struggling and overwhelmed 14-year-olds to seek out help for the needs that they themselves have to identify. That is unacceptable. We need to do better for these students that are coming into our schools next year. We need to right what has been done wrong. Please take action to do so.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Robin Cleek. Once again, I speak only for myself and not the District 73 board. People keep asking me to comment, but what is left to say? I already explained that the concern is with the sheer volume of initiatives, as well as the how, after the 318 meeting revealed there were no plans. What can I ask when my questions go unanswered, along with the dozens of others who emailed questions? Is there something I can say to people who have called hundreds of us misinformed, said our petition is flawed, yet can't explain those accusations when asked to do so? I am not someone you can accuse of misunderstanding your role. Your oath is first and foremost to advocate for all students. Implementing initiatives without a plan or with hastily fashioned plans is a plan to fail. You're building the plane as you're flying it. The students are your passengers, the employees your mechanics, pilots, and flight crew. They're telling you it's not skyworthy, and you're telling them to get that thing airborne because your on-time departure record is more important and you're already delayed, while your CEO tells them to do hard things from the safety of her office on the ground. I certainly understand your duty to comply with the laws. I also understand there are changes being made that aren't required by law, changes being made under the auspices of complying with the law, but which still don't bring us into full compliance, and changes that are required by law but haven't been properly planned for, even though those laws were enacted 3 years ago, all while foregoing the opportunity to explain those changes with full transparency. Nothing I say is from the cheap seats, and you can't wave away any of this as if it's smoke. We're all informed enough to see fire smoldering, and all you're doing by waving the smoke away is fanning the flames. The fact that I'm informed on things like board governance, relationships with unions, hiring and firing superintendents, writing goals, evaluating the superintendent on those goals, holding them accountable, responding to community emails, and more makes it impossible for me to think any of this is normal or acceptable. It's not. People keep asking me to run for your board. While that's flattering for about 5 seconds, it's actually really upsetting. Your pattern of behavior and dialogue, including what you're not saying and asking, has people so gravely concerned for the direction of District 128 that I actually have to consider what's being asked of me. My almost 10 years of service, 2 of which included being in the minority on my board, and 3 of which included working with a superintendent who was steering us in the wrong direction, still hasn't prepared me to explain what I've witnessed here the last several months. For whatever reason, you seem to have forgotten to whom you answer and to who answers to you, ignoring failed initiatives, discrimination claims, more than 90% of your teachers, glaring inequities between LHS and VHHS, a large portion of parents, and worst of all, the students who are involuntary passengers on Dr. Herman's airplane. Following her appointment in 2021, Dr. Herman said one of the things she was brought to this community to do is to unite us after COVID divided all of us. Well, I guess she's managed to do that because here we are, united. But I doubt this is what you had in mind. Maybe when you hired her, you didn't know this is where she'd lead us. But as Maya Angelou once said, when you know better, you do better. Time to do better. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Franz, community member. I have a student at LHS and 2 who have graduated. I'm also a former board member in D68. So I know how you feel. I've sat in your seat. And right now we stand at a crossroads where the majority of you have decided to stand behind the leadership that's being provided, despite significant evidence that we don't have a long-term operational plan for our current system that is sustainable, especially before all the changes we will be implementing in the fall. This is no longer a debate about the why, this is about the how, and whether the current plan can deliver programming and supports to our students and staff with measurable success while abiding by the requirements of state compliance. The current plan, by the way, does not put us in compliance with the 7030 Act, which protects some of our most vulnerable students, our special education students, and this has been mandated for many years. But for some reason, the APA, which has more recently been mandated, seems to be the priority and has already been enacted. Up until this point, it was in Dr. Herman's purview, your hire, to take into consideration everything that needs to happen when she came here into this position 3 years ago to develop underlying frameworks and operational supports that we are lacking. Now, without these, this is a lot of weight to place on an already overwhelmed and frustrated staff, as well as students.
And at the same time, we will be onboarding a new student services director, a new assistant principal, a new assistant superintendent of curriculum, and a new building principal. It takes a lot of bodies to build an MTSS system and to bring inclusive practices up to date. It takes a lot of buy-in to execute so many changes properly, buy-in that we don't have. Choosing to be right over doing what the stakeholders and staff have asked you to do right has put us in a very difficult position. I don't know what the answer is. I'm also frustrated by coming up here repeatedly with the same suggestions, but I know this. Going into this fall, we don't have the right things in place. And I know those of us who are supporting kids outside of this building, like me and others, we are also frustrated and at capacity, and we cannot leave these students hanging next year. So I'm pleading with you to please consider that as you continue to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the next agenda item, item 3 for discussion. Our first up is a report on exploring multiple paths. Ben Rodriguez, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ben Rodriguez. I'm the Director of College and Career Readiness, and I'll be co-presenting an update on the district's effort to support students exploring multiple paths. I'd like my co-presenters to introduce themselves.
Michelle Bastiani.
Do you have a microphone?
I'm Michelle Bastiani. I'm a teacher at Vernon Hills High School.
And I'm Lynn Benson. I'm the Department Chair for Career and Technical Education at Vernon Hills. Pleased to be able to join you again.
All right. Oh, there we go. All right. First, I'd like to thank everyone, all of the great staff members that have been on all of the Explore Multiple Paths teams. This work requires a lot of input and voice, so I wanted to make sure that everyone here was notified that we have lots of great staff working on these teams, whether they're working on planning teams, exploration teams, careers teams, and also career pathway teams. So I wanted to thank everyone for their excellent work in Explore Multiple Paths this school year. First of all, just want a quick update on what is Explore Multiple Paths and what does this look like. Essentially, the goal is to ensure that all students are informed, prepared, and empowered to pursue their career success after high school. In high school, that means developing career credentials, college credit opportunities, individualized plans for students, essential skills and experiences. After high school, that talks about helping students and families make returns on the investments in education that they're making purposeful choices, and also making a living while making a difference. We know all of this requires aligned community support that will eventually lead to a pipeline of candidates, which we know supports economic growth for our communities. So that's just a quick refresher on what Explore Multiple Paths is referring to. Our work has been broken out into 3 different strand teams, the careers team, the exploration team, and the planning team. And I'm going to hand it over to my co-presenter to talk about a couple of these strand teams.
So I'll begin talking about what the exploration team has done. We have worked with other districts and learned from them to develop options and opportunities for career exploration.
Actually, if you just pull it closer to you, then
sorry.
they can turn it
Okay.
down.
For D128. And we've also leveraged the experience of our colleagues at Transition Pathways who have engaged in career exploration services. Together, our team has developed the D128 Career Exploration Framework, which is a systematic approach to career exploration. Using this framework, students will have options to explore all 7 career pathways at both of our high schools. The framework is organized from left to right, starting with career awareness, in which students develop an awareness of different opportunities across the career pathways. Example activities include career speaker series and career treks or worksite tours available to students at both of our high schools. From there, students can engage in career discovery, in which various options allow them to further refine their exploration with activities that require more investment. The framework culminates with a career experience and the workplace internship course in which students engage in at least 60 hours of workplace experience in a particular career pathway. This fluid framework allows students to start and stop in pathways that resonate with them. For example, a student may start with activities focusing in one career pathway and find that something else may better suit their needs and interests. We wanted to highlight the workplace internship course, which is currently offered in the summer, fall, and spring semesters. Students engage in workplace experiences aligned to their interest while receiving feedback on their professional skills as they develop a local professional network. Sample workplace experiences include interning at local organizations, working at local businesses, and completing a pre-apprenticeship.
All right, and I'm really excited that we are launching that internship class this summer and in the fall and spring. It's something that I think is going to be really beneficial for students, and I'm glad to be one of the teachers that's going to be bringing that forward. So one of the other strands that we talked about and worked on all school year is the career strand, which was a group of people coming together to develop pathways and programs for endorsements and dual credit. And the last time I had the privilege of speaking to the board, I talked about the career pathway endorsement. And I'm really thrilled to be able to come and talk a little bit more with you about that tonight and point to some very concrete and measurable progress that we've made. So we are looking at locally shaped services, programs, and pathways for all students that connect them to real world experiences and life after high school. So talking about the college and career pathway endorsement, we know that this is something that meets both of our strategic plans as well as the legislative requirements for offering pathway endorsements to our students. We have currently approved pathways in human and public services, specifically our early childhood education program, which will allow our students to explore what it is to be a teacher and develop their skills and their abilities specifically around early childhood, which we know is a high need occupation area in Lake County and really across the whole country. And in addition to that, we have an approved pathway in information technology, particularly in computer programming. Our goal is to have career pathways eventually in all 7 of these areas, but the law requires that we offer at least 1 for the class of 2027, 2 for the class of 2029, and 3 for the class of 2031. So we are well on our way to not only meeting the requirements, but developing more pathways so that our students can benefit from that. We know that everything we do is really about bringing opportunities and experiences to our students because our students have asked for these experiences, because our stakeholder groups have all identified that these are things they want our students to have. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done. And so we've got a couple of more in the works. We have finance and business services, as well as manufacturing, engineering, technology, and trades in development. And as Ben pointed out, all of this work requires a lot of input and a lot of person power from all different stakeholder groups. And I'm really very happy that we got to see all the names up on the screen as we first started, because all of these folks have really given a lot of themselves and understand the value in the work that we're doing. So I think this is my last slide, right? Yep. So this is developing our pathways and programs. In addition to the career pathway endorsement, we're looking very seriously at our dual credit opportunities. We have, as I look at our notes from last time we talked, lots of AP opportunities, but dual credit is an area that we identified as an organization that we could and should grow. And you'll see on the slide as we go that we have this dual credit strategy that will drive thoughtful scaling of dual credit opportunities while providing a support system as students take advantage of these opportunities and the scaling of these programs. And through this strategy and our intentional work toward identifying places where it makes sense to offer dual credit, we are doubling our dual credit offerings next school year. And that is something that I think we truly should applaud because it's great for our kids and it gives them lots of opportunities to earn valuable credits in kind of a value-added situation. All right.
All right, and I will share a quick update on the last strand of our work, which is the planning strand. The planning strand works to develop a curriculum for high school, post-high school, and career planning. Essentially, that work started with evaluating and eventually recommending a platform to support all college and career readiness work, including the efforts mentioned by my colleagues, the career exploration framework, the pathway endorsements, dual credit. That platform is SchoolLinks, which is able to offer quite a few different resources to students, including a career center, post-secondary planning services, all sorts of options for students to explore what success might look like for them. Through the careful work of our teams, we are highlighting a few areas to focus on first, rather than launching everything at once. The team has worked to think about which elements make the most sense, to call out a few different things: the curriculum guide, career pathways, PACE framework, as well as moving our post-secondary exploration work to SchoolLinks, which will replace Naviance and SCORE as key areas that SchoolLinks will support students and staff next year. Also, we know that SchoolLinks supports that work-based learning opportunities such as internships, job shadowing, worksite visits, and will also track data for us in terms of our CCRIs and our college and career pathway endorsements. The team came together and developed a post-secondary and career expectations framework, or PACE framework, which is essentially a way for students to develop an individualized plan that allows them to delve into the areas of career exploration, post-secondary planning, and financial literacy. The idea is that students go through their 4 years of high school developing that individualized plan so that way they're ready for their next step after high school. I wanted to also share that this is the comprehensive version of that particular plan. This is phase one. The team worked together to identify key areas that made the most sense for us to focus our efforts upon. All of these areas here are actually things that we already do across the district, but we are working as a team to refine those efforts in terms of our greater support network in relation to the opportunities that were just mentioned. And I wanted to pass it back over to another colleague here.
Some different elements we wanted to celebrate were the formation of the D128 Business Advisory and able to just expand collaboration with our local businesses. And we have to date have over 200 business contacts that are currently in our database, which is a really exciting way to begin or continue the work, I should say, that we have been doing. And we also have career treks that we piloted this year with staff, and we're really excited to extend that to students this year.
Okay, and then talking about staff, our students, this is our communication and connections plan. So we understand that communication and making sure that people are aware of the opportunities and what we've been doing is really important. So our communication plan for students includes monthly digital updates to staff and the community, and direct student input through here at LHS, the Principal Advisory Board, and at Vernon Hills, the Student Council. So communication then with staff would include also exploring multiple pathways, monthly digital updates to staff and community, as well as the coordinating teams that are involved with this work. So our CRCs, our college and career pathway endorsement teams, our dual credit teacher teams, SchoolLinks champions, and our EMP strand leads, all of those people and all of those teams involved with communication. Whoops. There we go. And then community. Obviously, we want the community to be aware of the opportunities and the multiple pathways work that we're doing. So again, those monthly digital updates. The D128 Business Advisory Board is a really excellent contact and communication with our business community partners who sometimes or actually often are also community members themselves. So making sure that that is a really strong community that has clear communication on what the opportunities are. And then obviously, we also have other key Lake County partners, the workforce development teams, the teams we work with through the College of Lake County, all of these partners. It's really important. And we recognize and have plans for making sure that we stay in clear communications with those partners.
The first bullet on the student slide, it looks like it might be a duplicate of the EMP communications for staff. I'm sorry that I didn't catch it when I reviewed the presentation earlier. Is that actually the communication with students? Is it the same? Is it meant to be the same?
Good catch. That's a typo. The first bullet is referring to providing digital updates to students as well with the different opportunities that are coming up for them in Explore Multiple Paths. So same format, but the digital updates will be to students.
Got it.
Yep.
And is there any portal that parents can sign into in School Links?
Yes, we are working with our summer counseling team to develop the best way to roll it out with families. We want to make sure that when families have access to the system, that when they look at the dashboard, it's meaningful to them, they know how to navigate it, those kind of things, as opposed to here's access. We want to make sure folks are supported.
Sure. I appreciate that. Thanks.
In terms of looking at what next year looks like for Explore Multiple Paths, we have some proposed targets for 24-25. Renaming the careers team to Diploma Plus to really recognize that students have the ability to earn their high school diploma with endorsements and college credit. So the goal is to support and communicate and expand current and developing pathway endorsements and dual credit opportunities. The exploration team would look to support that framework. And number two, analyze data on those efforts to understand student input, participation, business input, feedback from stakeholders to understand, are these efforts working? And of course, explore staffing implications if we move from a 1.0 framework to a 0.0 framework that would offer more nuanced services, program sophistication, and increase student participation. The planning team would look to provide input on that School Links rollout to make sure families and students have support in accessing those services, developing resources, activities, and evidence for the Daring Journey or PACE framework in the current schedule. The idea is that now with some systems and programs in place, we'll be able to start monitoring student outcome data to understand how are students engaging these services, how are our businesses working with us, what are those student outcomes that we can look at to better evaluate how our offerings are working for students.
One quick question. Does this plan start for an incoming freshman, or is anyone in school can sign up for this?
Yes, any student can sign up for any of those opportunities. One nuance is that for the workplace internship program, that is for juniors and seniors only. But the career exploration activities, the PACE framework, all of those are available for students across the high schools.
You've been very busy.
I've had a great team. We've had great teams.
I do want to take just an opportunity to comment on that. Ben has been a great leader. He's been a wonderful asset to us as we've moved forward with this exploring multiple paths. This is something that's been in the works for a while, and without his clear communication and strong leadership, I'm not sure that we would be anywhere close to where we are with this now. So I just want to go on the record as saying that.
And thank you for saying that.
Yeah, that means a lot coming from you because this has been your work for many years. So thank you for continuing to stay involved and for your good words about Mr. Rodriguez. I do want to note that we were ambitious when we said we were going to have one endorsement, and we actually already have two. So this is in addition to pursuing AP credits. This is another avenue for our students to graduate with opportunities to be ahead for their post-secondary studies. So thank you. I echo Don's sentiments. This is a lot of really good work.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board?
I guess I would also like to compliment you and for kind of creating this vision. And I guess I would ask, what do you need from us to support this, to promote this, and to try and expand with our real world? You know, we all have access to a lot of friends who have businesses in the area. So what do you need from us to make this happen?
Sounds like you may have some contacts. Maybe we can chat about those. But I think a lot of it is just, I so appreciate the support of the work and the fact that we have such great staff and community working with us to make all these opportunities happen for students. It's really a collaborative effort. So just appreciate the support right now. Thank you.
One other thing to put this in an even larger context, Ben and I attended a partnership meeting this morning at College of Lake County, and they were talking about Dr. Michael Klarner and his efforts to make sure that these opportunities are available not only for our students in our district, but across the county. So the platform that we selected, School Links, he is paying for that, a portion of that, so that every district in Lake County will have access to the same database for all the employees and employers to match their students with the businesses. So the great work that Ben's team has done in identifying School Links as our, complete package, a portion of it will be used by all of the businesses in Lake County, streamlining it for them. So if they want to host 3 students from District 128 and 2 students from Grays Lake, they won't be having to log into different software in order to make sure that they can access eligible students.
And this is the result of another unfunded mandate that the state legislature asked schools to find ways for kids to engage in multiple pathways. And 2 years ago, you came on board. And in that time, it put together, I think, a terrific framework. It's very well planned.
And it was completely in line with our strategic plan, which was
Completely in line.
process of-
Explore multiple pathways is one of the threads.
For sure. It was one of the 3 main things that emerged that our students and families
That our
really
community asked for.
wanted to have students have these opportunities in addition to the mandate. So,
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. We will go back to the second item on discussion for board policies, second reading. So these are the policies that will be, that we will adopt at our next meeting. I sent Bryant a couple of questions. If you could respond, Bryant, to that one, not the typo, but the other one.
Don asked about the update on some of our board policies that involve Title IX, and that the Title IX regulations have been updated. So the federal Title IX regulations have updated. So press, in anticipation of those, have changed some of the titles of their board policies, but some of the board policies will come again when the updates on the Title IX regulations. So again, they came out a little over a month ago, and so we're waiting for the lawyers and press and ISB to give us updates, and then we will bring those back as soon as we have those.
so what we'll be voting on at the June board meeting?
So the June board meeting, a couple of these may be updated again right away.
I see.
But
Okay.
Yeah, 265, we're probably going to have to do again
Yeah.
because it goes into
So-
effect August 1st.
Yeah, so we'll vote it in, and then whatever updates we get from press, we'll update again.
Okay.
Are there any other comments about policy? Okay, very good. We are going to the FY 2025 ISB member dues. Who wants to take this one? Am I on the right
I'm not
thing
sure this
here?
one requires a lot of explanation. This is an annual renewal of our
Sure.
membership. The Illinois Association of School Boards provides training, networking opportunities, resources, and advocacy on behalf of all public school districts. Helps give a lot of information, not just about governance, but about laws and about how we do what we do.
It provides training for board members, and they also helped us redo our entire press policy manual, or our policy manual using press.
I'm just curious, is there any difference in membership costs from last year to this year?
I actually went back and looked, and it's only a $500 increase. I couldn't find an invoice for 2023, but it's from 2022. There's only a $500 increase.
Okay.
Seems reasonable.
Any
Yeah,
other
I use
questions,
it
Jen?
as a resource all the time. I'm on their website looking stuff up all the
Yep.
time. So I find it very valuable, as well as the annual conference that we attend. This is also,
It's probably in all of our bookmarks. Okay, educational tours. We have one.
Yep, we have one tour, journalistic writing at VHHS in the yearbook. They're going to be going to the Journalism Educational Association National Convention in Philadelphia, Thursday, November 7th to Saturday, November 9th. And costs are included in the budget sheet. And I'm familiar with this conference. This is a good one for our students. Certainly appreciate our teachers and parents making this opportunity available to our kids.
Do you know if this is the first time we've participated in this?
I
Is this a
looked-
new, I just don't remember seeing this one before. Is it a new
I
trip?
know we've participated in national journalism
Mhm.
conferences. I don't know if it's this specific one, but I do know we've had students travel to similar.
Yeah, I looked back, there was one in St. Louis a couple of years ago that was similar to this, but I have certainly had students go to this in the past as well. And know it's a valuable experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's one of those conferences that rotates cities. So the St. Louis one might be the same, but if you would like, I'm sure we could get that
No,
information for the board meeting.
I was just asking. It's not important. It sounds like a great experience.
Will be.
Okay, item E, the ISB calendar resolution. I think, Lisa, you'll probably take this one.
I will. I did reach out. I reached out to ISB about the resolutions process because we had discussed the possibility of proposing a resolution for the annual conference to be considered that would allow us to take religious holidays and sort of skirt the constitutional issue. As you can see in the administrative content, we received an email from ISB saying that there's no way to skirt around the constitutionality and declare a holiday unless you have an operational reason. For the same reason that we made the change that we did in October, the ISB is not going to support a resolution to try to skirt around that constitutional issue. So I'm not sure it really makes sense to go through the process of writing it and making a resolution and bringing it to the resolutions committee with that information. So I wanted to be sure everybody had a chance to review that email with that information and ask any questions or propose any further suggestions as to what that resolution might look like that would get around the Constitution.
How did New York do it?
What?
How did New York do it?
When I went back and read the information on that, they was New York City, not New York State. And New York City was able to show that through their very diverse population that they do have operational reasons for multiple holidays. So they were doing what our Constitution requires. And they have one of the longest lists of religious holidays that they close for because they have one of the most diverse populations in terms of culture and religion.
So that's New York City schools,
New
not
York
the
City
state
schools.
of New York?
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, item 4, future agenda items. There are a
I
number
have-
listed.
I just had one. I mean, I'm looking at the email and it seemed like when we revisit the calendar again, we should look at what thresholds we are using because obviously all they've said is high percentage and that doesn't mean anything. And what is high, right? And we have to look at like a combination of adults and students
For
in
sure.
that math versus one or the other. And yes, it is unfortunate. It's going to not benefit all the students just because there's not enough of them, percentage wise. But I think I don't believe that just because you cannot do all, you shouldn't do anybody. Whoever we can, we should.
Absolutely.
Um,
And that's the commitment that we made when we made this decision, that we were going to look at the actual data and continue looking at it. We didn't ask ISB for recommendations about the thresholds. We were just talking in general about a resolution that would allow us to take religious holidays without having to meet that standard. So that this is more of a general thing, but I agree with you. And we did make that commitment that we would continue to revisit those thresholds.
And then I don't know if you were going to go to next agenda items, but I had a question that I'd asked to get an update on where we are with staffing for the
Diagonal movers.
diagonal movers at least, and
We were going to do the staffing update with the new hires during the special
Okay.
board meeting, if you're okay with that.
yep, that's fine.
This may be, oh, am I on? Yeah.
Yep.
This may be a little bit out of left field, but I'm interested in starting a conversation with the board and the broader district community about revisiting or creating policy with regard to cell phones in our schools. And I'm really interested, again, out of left field, totally, maybe not the time to handle this, but I just want to plant the seed. Considering the idea of imposing a phones-free environment within our schools. And I'd love to hear what anyone knows about it, how it's been enacted in other schools throughout the nation. I think there's some really interesting research coming out of child psychology currently that suggests that one of the biggest impediments to our students' learning is the presence of phones on their person during class time.
Or what we can do to support teachers who make that
Correct.
decision
Whatever
if
it
they
might
don't want them in
be,
their
just
classrooms.
opening up that broader conversation. I'm thinking about it as a parent who's currently having to grapple with my own kids possibly needing more technology as they're getting to a certain stage of life, and possibly not. But I know as a parent, there are a lot of parents who feel similarly in that they would love the support of their schools to kind of keep our relationship, our kids' relationships with technology healthy and balanced. I would love to know what we can maybe do to support that.
That is something we could definitely bring to a future board meeting in terms of our current policy, just to review that with all of you, but also some of the things that individual teachers and schools have put into place in terms of having the cell phone motels and some other
Yeah.
strategies that teachers are using. But I, like you, have heard of some emerging research. And actually, I forget which country it was, but maybe it was England who recently
Yeah, it was
adopted a no cell phones at school policy. So I know that others are asking similar questions, so we could definitely.
And I know we have used some of those strategies within our classrooms. At this point, I think it's been years since there was a focus on it, but maybe restarting those conversations and just starting somewhere. I know we have a lot on our plate right now. I'm not asking to talk about it now. I want to plant the seed so that this is on the horizon eventually.
Okay. Anything else?
I do for future agenda items. When we get the update on the diagonal movers, there are things I'd like to see in the presentation.
Okay.
I know that recommendations were based on last year's testing. So I would like to know if we've identified students that would not have met criteria to diagonally move based on this year's standardized test score. If we've identified those students and what we have in plan to support them if they've made the choice to move diagonally.
I guess I just want to clarify, do you mean the move to ACT next year? Because I guess I'm just want to be clear on your question. We used PSAT data
Right.
this last year, and it was the October implementation for incoming eighth graders and the previous years for all of the students who took it on our campus in April. With the transition from PSAT to ACT, we will be having to do some adjusting, but again, APA will require us whatever is the meets or exceeds for ACT cutoffs is what our thresholds will be moving forward.
So I guess my question is, if there were students that were recommended to move diagonally based on whatever test score we utilized to recommend them for that, and whatever test we use this year would have changed that recommendation, one, have we identified them? And two, what support would we have for them if they chose to accept a higher placement?
And if I can add, I think I'd asked a similar question some time back. But let's take an example of a student who's currently in ninth grade. Okay, when would they take the PSAT?
April.
But we are going to sign them up for 10th grade classes in February based on how they did in 8th grade. Because you don't have your PSAT scores, that you
Right.
sign up for classes before April, and then you take the PSAT in 9th, which should show you how you're doing in 9th grade, but you've already signed up the student for 10th grade based on something other than how they did in 9th grade. So you might miss students who might have actually gone up, and you're going to catch some students who went down.
For the students who are with us, they take the test in April, and then the following year, those are the most recent results we have. That's what we use for the placement the following January and February. We don't have that for our 8th grade, but we do work with our middle schools to administer the PSAT to them in October. So they're actually the most recent data that we have. So we do have within a calendar year data for all of our students.
But maybe only for, so let's keep the incoming 9th graders aside for a second, right? I'm looking at the others, and this is why it was turned around in my head also, is they take, if I'm in 9th grade in August of this year, right? I'm going to take my
A
PS.
new 8th grade, 9th grader?
A current freshman. So let's say a
Let's say I'm in
2024
August, yeah.
2023, 2024 ninth grader.
Who's going to be a
just
10th
went to
grader in
10th grade.
August? Okay,
We made recommendations for their placement
yes,
based on their 8th grade PSAT, right?
yes.
Okay, so I'm not, maybe I'm not understanding it. My concern is they're testing for recommendation regardless of whether they are 9th grade, 10th grade, or 11th grade moving up is based on a previous year's
Yes.
score.
Yes.
So I don't care what the test is. If now we have current information that they just took in April, right? Didn't 10th graders just take or 9th graders take the
Yep.
PSAT in April?
Yes.
Okay, and 10th graders took.
Yeah.
So now we have their just last year's test scores, right?
But I don't even know if they took it in April, but the results are just coming in this summer, and they've already registered for classes.
I
so-
understand that. That's
Okay.
exactly where I'm
Right.
going. If they have already registered for classes, that one, they would not have met criteria, and they have chosen to move up. Have we identified them, and what supports do we have for them? And two, what if they did meet criteria, but they hadn't the previous year? What do we do with
Can we do
them?
anything?
Mhm. Again, we don't have those results back yet. If Charlotte is not here tonight, I don't know the exact date.
Right, I mean, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. So I
Mhm.
would like, between now and then, I would like us to discuss that population of students that may be identified that we need to support
Okay.
based on their current test score. I would also like to see.
Can I just clarify
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing? I might not have that data by June 24th, so whenever we get that data is when, because we don't have it from the state yet. So as soon as we get it, Charlotte and I can work together to analyze it and bring it to you. That might not be until the July meeting.
So I mean, how long does it take for, because I think students find out their scores. Yeah,
But we don't get our reports back from the state until a lot longer. I don't know the date, but I can get that to you when they anticipate it.
so do we have to just, considering that this is the expectation that we have to sign up kids based on PSAT, and now we know what the timing of all of this is, do we need to going forward reevaluate when we sign kids up for classes? Or you might say this is draft one and then we'll finalize you later. And I know we can't do that right now,
Yeah.
but is that a lesson that we need to apply? Otherwise, we're really signing up students based on year-old data, and a lot of growth happens when they are in high school, and you might have some kids that actually did better and some that may have not gotten better. And
Well, the timeline for course registration right now is based on the ability to hire the teachers we need to deliver the courses that they select. So that's pretty firm in terms of the state law saying that we have to give teachers so much notice should there be a decrease in enrollment or something like that. So that particular timeline is very firm in terms of when you approve staffing at the March board meeting. If we want to consider looking at additional data that comes in later, it can be difficult for us if we're not getting it until June or July or August. Actually, I don't really know when we get our final state report. We could do that, but it would be, again, difficult because we would have already hired the staffing based on the data that we had from everyone the previous year.
So is
June-
this a bigger conversation of defining what metrics we are using?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that if we're not going to just use the PSAT plus they've gotten a C or better in the grade or in the class prior, maybe we need to be thinking about how we are going to be expanding what we consider to be recommended for diagonal movement.
Yes.
It's a lot of big words.
It is. Going back to, again, the purpose of the law is to try and use things that are very credible, meaning it can't be different from student to student. So right now, with some of the things we paused with our grading and assessment, not all of our course teams will have the same agreement on courses. So that particular, for many courses, that might not be an eligible criteria that we could use. The other thing is it has to be something that has nationally normed recognition. So we can use multiple, like it could be PSAT and ACT or PSAT and iReady.
Yeah.
But so it can be multiple measures. The purpose of APA is to try and take out any sort of local bias
Right.
or things like that might be present in teacher recommendations or teacher grades.
And I know
So-
this isn't on the agenda, so I didn't mean to start, but these are things that I would like to see as a part of the presentation. One, the numbers that we talked about. Two, I would like to see a side-by-side comparison of our support system for
Yep.
entering ninth graders and 10 through 12, so that we can see exactly what it is we're talking about as far as support.
Yep.
I would also like to know how many additional honors and AP classes we are going to have next year in each building by grade level and also content area, what that movement looks like. And I would like to know how many teachers have had to take on new honors or AP courses that they haven't previously taught and how we've prepared them for that. That's it for me.
Those are all good questions. Okay, and that wraps up the future agenda items. So I'm going to adjourn this section of tonight's meetings and
And
turn it
then
over.
I do need a 5-minute break before we start on the FNF committee, and we will resume.
5-minute break before FNF.
Yes.
Program and Personnel Committee meeting adjourned. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. Currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next. currently on break. Facilities and Finance Committee meeting up next.
The F&F meeting to order. Okay. We are starting our Facilities and Finance Committee meeting 6:52 p.m. This is our call to order, and first up is our invitation for public comment regarding our Facilities and Finance Committee.
John Hetzel, there was a little discrepancy a minute ago from Ms. Herman. PSAT scores are accessible to your administration because they've been providing them to students who couldn't get them with the merge issue that took place this past week. So I've also heard that other districts already have those reports that you said weren't available. So I'm really confused, Ms. Herman, how you could not understand some of this, that your own administration can access those PSAT scores of my daughter who was a sophomore this year. Also, ISBE about a week ago changed their standard testing that they're going to use as their bellwether is going to be the ACT. So how does that also impact the fact that we're using the PSAT and SAT now? And also, if I'm not mistaken, with the APA, it's supposed to be multiple testing standards, not one only. And up until this point, I feel like all we've ever heard is that we have to follow the one only testing standard. But when I read the guidelines, it shows that there's supposed to be multiple testing. So please double check with your administration. You have access to those PSAT scores today.
Hi, Gwen Jansen. Adding on to what he was saying about the PSAT, actually the language from the APA says an assessment process that includes multiple valid, reliable indicators. So it's not just option to use multiple tests. It is one of the requirements that we're using multiple valid, reliable indicators. It also says, and I'm quoting, the fair and equitable decision-making process that involves multiple persons and includes the students, parents, or guardians. But it does not say that the parents should be making the placement decisions alone or apart from informed guidance. And I do appreciate all the questions about the thresholds and when the test was administered and is this applicable and is it not? But really, honestly, the thresholds are so low, everyone's being recommended for honors and AP anyway. So, what are we doing to support the kids that as Mr. Drumke said, would not have previously been identified for these honors or accelerated courses, who may have trouble keeping up with that curriculum. So thank you for asking those questions, and thank you for asking the sectioning questions. I was frustrated, as you all know, that when I asked those sectioning questions of the district, I was told I needed to FOIA it. So thank you, board members, for finally asking for how many sections do we have, how many are increasing, how many more kids are we looking at, specifically with regard to the ninth graders who have been left off everything, but across the board in both schools. I'd also love to see the number of students who requested certain courses, but had those courses canceled, even though in previous years we've run with even less numbers. So board members, if you could ask for that information, I certainly can FOIA it, but that creates a lot of paperwork and problems for the district and legal fees and things like that. So if board members would look into that information, it would be greatly appreciated. I think we'd all shed a lot better light on the situation moving forward.
Would anybody else like to make public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to our first item for discussion, which is the LHS cafeteria options.
Thank you all. We've got our team here from STR and from Gilbane. If everybody can introduce themselves, that'd be great.
Hello, I'm Kim Sarche. I'm an architect with STR Partners.
I'm Tom Fallon, project executive with Gilbane.
Zach Weatherspoon, pre-construction manager with Gilbane.
Mike Henderson, STR Partners.
Thank you. At our last meeting, we came with budget numbers for the cafeteria, the gathering stairs, and the quad bathrooms, well over our initial estimated price. pricing. So our task was to go back and look at the projects and look at options and to come up with reductions, different options for the skylights, which we had discussed, and some value engineering. So we had several meetings. Dan explained it in the notes. And we've come up with 9 options across the board, showing several different ways to move forward. There's one on the sheet you received, there was one typo. It was VE item number 3. And
What page is that on?
that is page 5. In your column to the left, you go down, you'll just see an A. Something happened when Dan transmitted it, but that's actually, so everybody knows, that's to remove the studio theater, HVAC, relocate to dry storage area and office space as part of a savings measure for the project. So in the chart, option number 1 shows no changes, and that's what our estimate came at, basically 16.5 million. Option number 2, to reduce costs, would be to remove the bathrooms, also remove the gathering stairs, and no change to design in the cafeteria was 14,081,000. Option 3 would be to remove the quad bathrooms, the gathering stairs, and use skylight option number 1. What we discovered was with the steel and building out the space in the courtyard, there was no large savings by going to smaller skylights, because then you added in your roofing and your other structures and all that, and all the other materials. So we thought there'd be a substantial savings, and there was no substantial savings. By checking with option number 1 was 12 skylights. Option number 2 was 16 skylights. When all the costing was done, I said it was not an outstanding savings. In option number 1 with the 12 skylights, it was only $105,700 in savings, and $119,000 to go to 16 skylights. So in option number 3, to use option number 1 with the 12 skylights, and then reductions on the value engineering, we came to the 13.5 million and change. Option number 4, again, remove the quad bathroom, the gathering stairs. The second option on skylights, and reduce the value engineering in the cafeteria was 13.542 million, close to our estimate, original estimate. Option number 5, we remove the quad bathrooms, reduce all the value engineering in the stairs that we had come up for value engineering, and then value engineering down for the items in the cafeteria is 14.8 million and change. Option number 6, we removed the quad bathrooms. We reduced the VE, except keeping the skylight in the staircase, the gathering stairs. Staying with the original design for the skylight in the cafeteria, and then all the reductions in value engineering brought us just under $15 million for number 6. Number 7, in all these scenarios, is remove the quad bathrooms. Was to remove all the VE in the gathering stairs. So just put the stairs in, but no skylight, no planters, no, and reduce the finishes. And then, keep all the original design in the cafeteria without any value engineering. Was 15.23 million, 15,230,000. Option 8, more reductions in splitting up reductions into the removing the stairs, the quad bathrooms, and then using option number 1 as your skylight with the 12 and some of the VE, bringing us at 13.671 million. And option number 9, remove the quad bathrooms, reduce the VE, keep the skylight in the gathering stairs, and then also keep the original design in the cafeteria at 15.397 million. The school looked at the different options, and obviously choice number 1 would be the original design. Their option, their second option would be to go with option number 9. Their third option was option number 2. And their fourth option would be number 8. But there can be some different things moved around. I think one of the key things in moving forward with the gathering stairs is the skylights. If we take the skylights out now, the cost will be astronomical because we'll have all the finishes done, and then we'll have to tear it apart, scaffold over all the finished stairs and all that to try to put skylights in the future, because there's going to need roof structure has to be adjusted. So any choice in the staircase, for the gathering stairs, I think the skylights are a key thing to keep in at this point. It'd be cost prohibitive in the future to add them at a future date. Is a thought in our discussion here. Is there any questions so far, or?
Can you reiterate the preferences of the building? Can you
Well,
read those
I
off
think
again?
Tom and Bryant were both at that meeting, so I might ask them to chime in too.
Yes, we, as Mark said, obviously we love the initial design that accomplishes the bathrooms, the gathering stairs, and the cafeteria. We understand there may be a need for us to reduce the overall scope and financial expenditures of the project. So as Mark said, in that sense, then we looked. Our main goal is to keep the cafeteria as the primary project. The bathrooms are in need of remodeling. They're functional, they're usable. You've seen them, you've been in them. So if we need to delay those, we can certainly delay those. So we've removed those from all of the options, and that was a considerable cost savings. When it came to the learning stairs, our thinking was that if we have to cut the learning stairs, then we certainly understand that in order to keep the original design of the cafeteria in place. If we have some options to do the learning stairs, we felt that we could reduce the value engineering of the learning stairs, but keep the skylight would be our first choice, which is option 6. And if we still needed to go further, then we would remove the value engineering and the skylight. Mark I thought we had priced that out, but I'm not seeing that specifically in our lines. So the priority for the building is to do the cafeteria and to do it at a very high level. That's our main need. That cafeteria will be 50 years or more at the central gathering point of the building. We think the natural light is very important in there, and given that the cost savings aren't significant for the smaller skylights, we think the impact with the smaller skylights on the space will be significant. So as a building, we're hoping to keep the original design of the cafeteria. However, even with the original design, we can reduce a lot of the value engineering in the cafeteria with no impact on the overall space. Specifically, we can work to remove the planters, reduce the finishes, the smaller dishwasher, remove the walk-in cooler, and remove the studio theater HVAC to relocate dry storage. So it would still be the original project, just with some of the value engineering factored out.
And can someone remind me the reduction in costs associated with the value engineering factored out?
The items that he just mentioned, the planters, the reduced finishes, the smaller dishwasher, the walk-in cooler, and the studio theater is $326,700. There's a few other options in there for the cafeteria, but they would impact the look of the space.
Sure.
Regarding something like pendant lights or something like that Tom's referring to keep the original design.
Does option 2 allow the studio theater HVAC work to be done?
Yes. Option 2 basically takes the quad bathrooms and the gathering stair and has the subcontractor community price those as alternates, so that you price the cafeteria per its original design with the original skylight, the studio theater HVAC, everything all in. But then the stair and the quad bathrooms are priced as alternates, so that when the bidding comes in, you have a number to look at for the cafeteria and then 2 other numbers to look at for the quad bathrooms and the gathering stair, to then make a decision whether you want to proceed with those 2 smaller projects.
Okay, thank you.
So to your point, Ms. Benjamin, if there was what specific option, if we had to reduce from the original project, option 6 is one that the building felt we would still be able to maintain the impact of the projects whilst reducing costs.
Thank you. And then I have one more question. Oh, I'm so sorry. You can go ahead.
I was just going to say one piece on option 6. Option 6 takes the quad bathrooms and prices them as an alternate, but it keeps the skylight the same in the cafeteria. It just pulls out some of the other hidden costs that are non-aesthetic in the cafeteria, but still allows the gathering stair to go forward, just with taking some of the cost of the gathering stair out of the project by way of planters and finishes, but keeping the skylight in the gathering stair.
So the user experience in the cafeteria remains unchanged, essentially, right?
Right.
And the stairs will be now reduced by some of those aesthetic finishes. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I did have another question, but it slipped my mind. I'll let someone else ask.
For clarifications, though, I had, when we talked in option 9, and that's what's in the building feedback.
Right.
So,
I thought 9 was also.
Option 1 was obviously the first choice. It's got everything. And then option 9, if we have to get to about 15 million.
Yes.
And that's to keep the original cafeteria as original as possible. So number 9.
Because I thought number 9 also allowed the HVAC system to go forward, because that would allow for the same square footage for the students, whereas moving the HVAC was going to take up some, require some redesign so that there'd be fewer student seating.
Yeah, and in 9, you're removing the quad bathrooms, you're keeping the original design in the cafeteria, and then you're reducing, you're keeping the skylight in the gathering stairs and then reducing in the gathering stairs, 2 pieces of it, correct? the
Yeah.
planters, additional seating, and reducing the finishes.
Yes, and I apologize because I meant once we start moving past the original design of the cafeteria, then option 6 was where the building was moving towards.
Yeah, the actual storage, it's taking approximately 300 square feet out of the seating area. So basically a 10 by 30 area. I believe we made it, the closet was 5.5 foot deep. So we were only bumping the wall as little as possible, make it one long storage area. So to impact as little as possible. And then the seating, that little area be replaced by where the planters were. If the planters were removed, our seating is replaced in that space.
I had an additional question that I'm now remembering. Dr. K, could you maybe just, for public sake, but just to remind me as well, the curricular goals of the learning stairs, how do they address student learning and support student learning? But additionally, how do they support seating and feeding all of the students in this building?
Yeah, when the learning stairs were designed, it was designed as one, it would be a space for cafeteria overflow. So we would open that up. It would become a space that students could choose to eat their lunch or to sit at in lieu of going into the cafeteria. So that is one of the primary goals with the learning space or the learning stairs. It increased our cafeteria capacity essentially by, I think, approximately 55 students, if I'm remembering correctly. And I can check in a second. The curricular goals for that would be secondary because it would be a space that a teacher could choose to bring a class to for public presentations. We had been working with our IT and AV department to build in a multimedia space there where students would be able to deliver presentations with a audience not just of their classmates, but other members of the school who would have a resource period during that time. We also anticipated that it would be heavily used by clubs and sports teams for club meetings or for different gathering before they leave for different activities after school. So it was not necessarily something that would be a primary focus for classroom learning, would be another space teachers could use for some very creative ways to make their learning public. But largely the primary goal was for the extra space for students who didn't have a class and didn't want to be in the cafeteria, as well as for the extracurricular presentations and meetings that we would be doing.
And let me clarify, by removing the gathering stairs from the plan, we do not run into a spacing issue in the cafeteria, correct? Or a seating issue?
Right. The designs that we have right now, we believe would be sufficient without the learning stairs. That might mean we have to make some different furniture choices than we would to get more students in the cafeteria, but we believe we would be okay without the learning stairs.
Okay, thank you. I remember all of this from previous meetings.
Yes.
I've taken notes as such, but I wanted to make sure I had it right. Thank you for re-clarifying for me.
And just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna,
No,
please go ahead.
I had more of a blanket question, and that is regardless of the option we pick, what's the risk that it's going to go up once the project actually starts? Because I think, at least I can speak for myself, I was thinking our target completion amount would be the 13.5 million. But we are at just the start of the project already exceeding that. So what are the chances that in 6 months now, even if we picked the 13.4 option, we're now looking at adding another 2 million, and then in 6 months after that, 2 million again, because we don't have that money.
Great question. The design is pretty far along at this point. We're not in a conceptual design stage where we're putting together rough orders of magnitude on the design content. We're through a good portion of the design development, so the estimating team at our firm has been able to put real numbers based on market pricing to the design content, which are the numbers that you see here today. And in estimating, typically historically, the bidding community generally is in line or ahead of, at a better cost than the estimate based on past projects. I hope that answers your question. We're pretty far along in design at this point.
Okay, and do you account for, does this include contingency? Like you found bad wiring and you have to bring something up to code that you weren't expecting? Again, I watch a lot of HGTV shows, so this stuff comes up, so.
Yeah. In renovation work, we typically, as the design progresses, we start with usually a 6 to 10% design contingency, and then we reduce that down. So when you get to 100% bidding documents, we keep that around 2 or 3%. So if the subcontractor community found something in the design that was different than what the design documents showed, they would bring that to our attention during the bidding period in a request for information so that we can take that dollar figure and work it into the final price. So that's what the design contingency is for. The construction contingency is also part of the cost as well, which remains, I think we're at 6% still on the construction contingency. And that's percentage remains at the mobilization date. So if we were open a ceiling and found something above ceiling that may not have been discovered during design investigation, that's what that price is for. That's what that dollar figure is for. And as you bring the cost down on that contingency, we reconcile that each month with the team from the school that's reviewing budgets and accounts and things like that. So in total, you're at about a 9% contingency right now. We also have allowances for certain things along the way that we build into the trade subcontracts to make sure that there are things that they just couldn't see on the drawings that in renovation work, you're just simply going to have to do along the way. So we work with Mark and the team on what is truly an allowance extraction or what they owe per their base scope.
Okay, so regardless of the option we pick right now, we shouldn't go too far from what we see here. If at all, hopefully the cost will be lower when we get the actual bids.
Right.
Okay.
And, sorry.
Nope, thank you. That's all I had.
So presently, the way we've been working is we can bid this in 3 portions: the cafeteria, the gathering stairs, and the washrooms. So we do have all the documentation to do the washrooms and together and do these all separate and put it all in one bid package, and then to come with an option if the gathering stairs are too high and you say, well, you know what? The washrooms, we'd rather do the washrooms instead. We can always bring that option forward the way we have everything put together at this point right now.
So what I wanted to clarify is what you need from the board tonight. You need the direction of how you're going to bid this. Is that correct?
Yes, because it will be able to tell the subcontractors what they need to break out. If they were to look at the drawings right now and bid it as such, it'd be option 1. They'd give us one price and we'd evaluate that price and make a recommendation to the team as to which subcontract we want to choose. If not, if we go with one of the options, we have line items in the scope drawings to show what we want them to price out separately. And Kim and Mike and the team at STR will help us with clouding those areas of the drawings to show, and there'll be a bubble that says alternate 1, alternate 2, VE option 4, VE option 7, et cetera, to help guide the subcontractors through the bidding process.
Yeah, what's in the currently what's easy in the construction drawings, the way they are right now, is bidding either option 1 or option 2, where the scope, the design stays the same, you just don't do certain areas. We clad an area, we don't do the toilets. Clad another area, we don't do the, we get a price that would give you the option whether you do the gathering stairs. A lot of the other decisions, a lot of the other options take some design, take some redrawing. And I guess that's kind of what we need feedback on. If we went with option 5 or option 7 or whatever those might be, where we have to value engineer, where we make products not as high end, or we take out planters, or we take out. So a lot of those, we really have to make the decision whether you want to go that way for us to draw what it is that they're going to be bidding. So, so I guess what we're asking is, if it's option 1 or 2, we'd be pretty much ready to go. But if we're getting down to another $1 million of less, that really has to give some thought, and we need feedback from the board as to which option or which combinations of things that might be.
So
I have a-
we could discuss the merits of every single one of these options for the rest of the night. We'd be here for a really long time. So just to get the discussion moving, I would really like to see things separately. And I'm going to propose that the way that we bid it is option 2, so that we still have the option to see the price of the bathrooms and the stairs, but they are separate. It doesn't mean we aren't going to choose to do them, but it means that we will see those things separately and then can make a decision based on how the numbers come in.
Can I ask a quick question? And we
Please.
may have already covered this.
Please.
When you bid them out as a combined set of projects, do the estimates typically come in lower as opposed to when they're bid out like a la carte? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
The price is usually, option 1 and 2, the prices would be the same, as long as the time period of work is the same.
Okay.
If they price the quad bathrooms and the gathering stair, and then it's decided we're going to do them 2 years from now, the price will go up because of escalation and other
Usual.
factors.
Right.
Do you agree with that, Tom? Or
I guess to answer your question, yeah, if we go if we put an option in the original bid, the price will be the same if it was option 1 or option 4. The price really be the same. You just had the other 2 broken out. I mean, the stair and the 4 may be the wrong option number, or 2, but they usually broken out. So you're not it's not going to cost any more to do it that
Understood.
way.
That's kind of what I was asking.
Yeah.
Is there any advantage to bidding it
It's an
differently?
economy
Thank
of
you.
scale. There's an advantage to doing them all at the same time because everybody's going to be there all at the same time.
Yes.
Right,
for
that
sure.
option
Today's pricing.
That alternate price is only good if we say, yes, you're doing it now.
Right.
If you say, oh, we'll do it 2 years now, add
It's
30%.
null and void. Right. Understood. Thank you.
So with the work we did with the value engineering, as we looked through the project and what we could do to reduce scope, that's where we came up with option number 6. And then with reducing scope in the different areas to help out, we were able to bring prices down, and we can still bid it with that scope with some changes to the existing drawings. But I think we'll be successful, with Tom's team and what they're looking for with option number 6 and still bringing in a fantastic cafeteria.
I guess I'm confused. If we were to go with option 2 to bid separately, could we later decide in the cafeteria if we wanted to eliminate some of these value engineering, that we could eliminate them later? Or if we go with option 2 today, we are committing to all of the cafeteria project and completion?
the latter.
So I guess my question, since we don't have the option of about 350,000 or, close to almost 500,000 of this value, the engineering. I run a good kitchen, but not a good cafeteria. How important are these things to having having our cafeteria run smoothly? Do they
On the
need
worker
that
side,
dishwasher?
not just on the, right, do we need the dishwasher?
I
Do we
mean-
need the extra dry storage?
Well, it's not extra dry storage. If we're taking away, this is where it comes in. If we take away the HVAC, then the studio theater HVAC stays in place, and we are just transferring the space that we were using there and moving it and taking a walk-in cooler out using regular coolers. So they kind of tie together as we're in a reduction. By removing the HVAC, it causes other things. So that's where we looked at where our ticket items that we can, we're just reducing 300 square feet in the whole cafeteria space.
I recall a conversation with Dan, who's at a conference this week. He was sharing that the HVAC unit is going to need to be replaced in the next 5 years, period, like it's at end of life. And so one of his concerns was not moving it, leaving it there, doing a remodel around it. And, when this is our one opportunity to gather as much space as possible for student seating and student servery. So I just think that's an important thing that, Mark, I don't know if you want to comment on also, but this is our one opportunity
Yeah, I
to
wasn't-
shift to a rooftop unit that would then free up space for student cafeteria.
And the details on that were included in the memo on page 4, number 4. Page 4,
Correct.
bullet 4.
Yeah. I wasn't part of the discussion, so I couldn't give my thoughts on that HVAC unit. I think removing the HVAC unit out of the project, in my opinion, is the way to move forward. Instead of, and we do it in the future, it will still end up being a rooftop unit. We still will need space in that room to connect ductwork. So, I mean,
End
there's,
up losing that
since-
space in the long run.
Hmm?
Then you'd end up losing
Yeah.
that space in the long run. because
Right.
you still have to
It's-
Run the ductwork through it.
there's ductwork in there now.
Right.
That's where the ductwork runs now. So,
All I'm saying is that's different than what Dan wrote in his memo.
Ye-
So I just
yeah.
want to honor his
well,
recommendation.
yes.
Does the
Mhm.
admin have a specific recommendation for a particular choice?
I think we felt really comfortable supporting what the building's recommendation was, and I believe that's option 9. Tom, I know you said 6, but I thought number 1 was your first choice.
9.
And then number 9.
And then if we had to dig into the cafeteria, 6. Yeah.
Personally, I would not like to
It's
change the
listed that-
cafeteria plan at all.
Option 2 is the third choice.
Again,
That-
it was listed, option 1 is our first choice. Option 9 is if we need to get to about 15 million. That would keep the cafeteria as original as possible. Option 2, if we need to get closer to 14 million, again.
And option 2 keeps the cafeteria with the original design and just breaks out the learning stairs and the quad bathrooms. So it's not that
Correct.
we are saying we're not doing them, it's just bidding it separately.
And then option 8 would be as if we need to get to 13.6 million. But again, getting to that 13.6 million you'd have to affect the cafeteria.
You'd have to affect the cafeteria and you wouldn't be able to do the HVAC work that needs to be done in a few years anyway. That would affect the cafeteria space.
I didn't answer, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but I didn't fully answer. I said no to, could you pull those things out later? And I was sort of thinking of the mindset of what you said about would the price be the same to pull items at different times? You could, if the bidding is complete on option 2, and then 2 months later during pre-construction, someone decides, you know what, we do want to pull a few options out of the cafeteria. You could then go and do it as a change order, but you may not get the full value of the price during the first bidding phase. So you, at any point in the project, you could decide to not do something or to do something. And that's a change order. And then you're stuck with, okay, now the subcontractor's on site, what are they going to really
Right.
give us here for this if
The
they're,
point of my question was to say, do we really have to decide all of these line items today? And what I'm hearing is, yes, we have to decide these line items.
for the most part, because it's June and the project wants to start soonish. And if you do decide on some of these blue items, the cafeteria items later, it pushes the project out because redesign has to happen on those in order to bid them correctly.
But if I'm reading this correctly, Tom, the least priority is the bathrooms, right? Because it seems to be crossed out across the
Yes.
board.
Correct.
Right there is almost $1 million. Are we gaining any bathroom facilities, or we're just redesigning with
There-
the?
The bathrooms that are being removed are the ones that were in the world language and the science quad area. We are still, as part of the cafeteria project, redoing the bathrooms that are across the hall from the cafeteria because we had to replace the bathrooms being taken out of the cafeteria with bathrooms, expanded bathrooms across the hall. So there is some, if you kept the original design to the cafeteria, there are some bathrooms included in that.
Right.
That's an option two.
That would be included.
That would be included in the original cafeteria design.
Yes. The bathrooms they're kind of by the main gym across the hall from the existing cafeteria.
I don't think any of the options included any changes to the existing bathroom remodeling that's a part of the cafeteria.
Correct.
That was not part of value engineering.
So option two, if we just didn't do the bathrooms and still did the stairs, we're down $900,000. So it's the 16 million minus 900,000 would be the final price there. So even though they say that option two is their choice, if we need to get closer to 14 million, it's really closer to 15 million if we just remove the bathrooms, but we keep the stairs.
Well, yes, But-
That's option two.
that's option two, and it gives us the price just separately to
Correct.
add it on as an option as opposed to making it part of the main bid.
And then unless I'm not understanding this, which is entirely possible, but I think that Dan is saying that we have enough money to do option one. And that's swaying my decision. Because it would be nice to be able to do all of that work all at once.
So option two doesn't say that we can't do it all. It
Correct.
just breaks
just
it out.
Breaks it out, exactly.
It
Which
just
is why I
breaks
like
it
option
out.
two.
Right, but one of the things that we were kind of sticker priced at was the entire project, and we asked you to come up with some options, and now you've given us some options where we could see a reduction of 153,000 with these fixtures on the, and I am a big proponent of the learning stairs. I think I've been very clear about that. Are those fixtures that can be added at a later date for similar pricing, you think? I mean, I
What's
want to
gonna
honor
change?
that you did exactly what we asked you. And I appreciate it. I don't want to just say, okay, go ahead, we're going to go ahead with the, I would like to spend some time on the time that you took to show us some of our options. And the fixture with the learning stairs of 153.8, is that something that could be added for similar cost at a later date? I don't know what those fixtures are.
Yeah, it's a good question. You said fixtures and we wrote it as finishes, but
I'm sorry, finishes.
it's like if you have a wood panel, a wood seating, different types of lighting. Kim and Mike, you might have to chime in on the specifics, and you change the type of product to something else that's cheaper. At some point in time, there's a cutoff point where we need to order it to install it. I'd have to dig a little bit into the lead times of the materials to give you a specific drop dead date on some of the finishes type reductions, but that's a percentage ballpark number on the amount of finishes that are in the gathering stair that we could reduce down. It's like 5% or something like that to just show that there is an opportunity to change some of the finished product to something else.
And that was that when we discussed in the group, that was why option 9. So if you look at option 7 and 9, the difference is keeping the skylight in option 9 and not in 7. And so really 9 was added on saying, hey, is there an opportunity to put this gathering staircase, which is at the front of Libertyville High School, right in the front foyer, which if you walk, the difference when you walk in, I think, to Libertyville and to Vernon Hills is you're kind of, you open up to a big thing. At Libertyville, there isn't. This gathering staircase is an opportunity to be able to walk in and have that foyer and have that opening. By keeping the skylight in option 9, it further tries to bring in natural light and open that up in 9. And that's why when they went through it, 9 really was the last one added because we were looking at 7 and saying, okay, we're going to do some value engineering with reducing the finishes and removing some of the planters and additional seating, but we really wanted to keep the skylight.
So I think 9 gets at what you've been talking about is where are places where we could make some small cuts that would be valuable, but not impacting the overall aesthetics. So that again, is what administration would recommend would be number 9.
My concern is just that we are getting close to our available fund balance. And, it's my opinion that while the learning stairs would be a nice to have, it's not a necessity, and we are not in the luxury business. I would rather have more in our fund balance left over, or at least have the option to price it that way, and then make the choice about the learning stairs. I'm just not feeling like doing it all because it came in $3 million more than we expected I'm just not thinking it's the responsible choice. Just because we still have fund balance doesn't mean that we need to spend it all.
I guess I just want to clarify, my recommendation wasn't that we do it all, was that we bid number 9, bidding it out with the value engineering. So not saying that we do it. Number 9 is
We could still not do
bidding
it.
them
It's
all
just-
separately.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So it would give us an opportunity for the total to be lower, but then still also have the
Be able
opportunity
to pick and choose.
to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a valuable option to be able to look at something like that. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I have Dan on my shoulder right now saying the things we do now add up later. And our fund balance, like you just said, everything's okay right now. But down the road, there are challenges we're going to have to, encounter and deal with. And they're coming. And there's no two ways about it. Maybe we save what we can where we can. And maybe that value engineering, beautiful as it might be and aesthetically pleasing as it may be, may not be the responsible way to manage district funds.
Right. I mean, we can do anything. We just can't do everything.
I agree that bidding it out as number 9 works.
Okay, so let's compare and contrast number 2 and number 9 in terms of what that means for how we bid it out and what options we have when we receive the bids.
I guess we don't know yet the 153,900. STR needs a little time to redesign that. The planners, I think the 27.6 remove planners and add seating. I think I can speak for STR. That's a pretty quick change to the documents, but to gather enough of the design reduction in the 153,900 on the reduction of finishes. Do you have a ballpark timeline on that, Mike, as to how long that would take to, provide some alternates and finishes?
I think we could probably get a lot more specific in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, in that time scale.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of in order to provide so many options, we purposely kind of try to get out of the nitty gritty, say, we know that we can reduce finishes because we have a lot of nice finishes in the learning stair. We have the kind of wood panels on the wall. We have some fabric panels, graphics, some nicer finishes on the stairs and things. We didn't really get into what we could substitute it with at this point, again, since there were so many different options. At this point, if you're interested in number 9, pursuing that, we can get into that level of detail and make a recommendation for review of whoever would like to be part of that review.
But let me just be clear. I don't want to do option 9 if our only choice then is to spend 15.4 million. The reason that I'm asking about the difference between number 2 and number 9 is my understanding is that 2 keeps the cafeteria as originally designed and then allows us to have the bathrooms and the stairs as alternates.
Correct.
Well, all 3 can be bid as alternates.
Yeah, the bathroom is a clear alternate.
Mhm.
It's just clouding the drawings and saying price this separately.
Mhm.
The stair can also be an alternate with option 9 as a difference to option 2. You're changing the design a little bit, right? Option 2 is you just cloud the stairs on the drawings and you tell the subs bid this separately. Option 9, you still tell them to do that, but STR needs a little bit of time to change the design to what would reflect this reduction in cost is.
Is it going to cost
in
us
1A.
money with STR to figure out that number of the savings of 153.9?
It's, no, we wouldn't charge for that. It's mostly finishes, so it's insignificant. No.
So all of these options can be bid separately. It's just what the total would be because we're value engineering, so the total cost would be less for some of the options.
So will we have
compared to
4
others.
bids then? One for the bathrooms, one for original design cafeteria, one for original design gathering stairs, which is option 2, and one for all reduce
Yeah.
PE, keep skylight option for stairs?
That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be like a 2A. You'd have the main price for the cafeteria. You'd have alternate 1 to price the quad bathroom separately, alternate 2 to price the gathering stair separately, and alternate 2A or 3, whatever you want to call it, to price the stairs per this different design.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of nodding
Perfect.
heads.
Yes.
That I think that we have
Okay.
come to consensus.
So you don't want to pursue value engineering on the cafeteria at all?
No.
Okay.
We do not. Okay, great. Anything further on the cafeteria?
Thank you for doing such great work very quickly.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
we're
being
happy to help.
here and for all of your contributions and for your patience.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Very welcome.
Okay, moving on to item B for discussion, the fiscal year 24 audit engagement letter. Dan has prepared this. It's the annual engagement for Miller Cooper. There is a cost, and this is the same approval that we do every year. Are there any questions for the audit engagement, which looks like, did you want to?
No, I'm just looking to see if
yeah,
there's
yeah.
any questions.
So the cost for the audit engagement is $50,500 for the base and $7,000 for the single audit federal requirement, and $1,800 for the additional federal and state requirements. For the prior audit, it was $48,000, $6,500, and $1,800. So there will be additional costs of about $10,450 from last year. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on to item C for the Vernon Hills High School Rust-Oleum Field naming rights. It looks like Dr. G is doing some work on that, and there is not a final agreement for us to approve at this point.
No, this is just updating on the progress that we're making and just to let you know that as soon as one is reached, we would bring that to
So
you
are
for
we looking
consideration.
for an additional sponsorship to continue to call it Rust-Oleum, or are we looking to just call it?
No, I believe there would be a contribution for those naming rights.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's
it's
working
in
with
there.
Rust-Oleum right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to the June 30th bills payable. There was nothing attached, but it was just a remark to let us know that since June is the end of our fiscal year, we may have some invoices to pay that come after the June board meeting, and if so, they will be brought to the July meeting.
Right.
Okay, the future agenda items are the same list as we discussed for P and P. Is there anything specific for F and F that was not discussed that we would like to discuss at this time?
No.
No, okay. Seeing none, then we will adjourn the Facilities and Finance Committee meeting at 7:46 PM. And we will move on to our special board meeting. We will have our call to order, and whenever you're ready, a roll call for this special meeting, please.
Bear with me here.
We have a new appreciation for how promptly Ms. Scoden navigates board docs.
Yeah, because when she says Give me a second. It's literally a second.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yep. We have already done the Pledge of Allegiance, so we will skip right to roll call whenever.
Roll
you are
call.
ready.
Jim Batson, Kara Benjamin,
Yes.
Don Carmichael.
Here.
Kara Drumkey,
Here.
Lisa Hessel,
Here.
Middleash Cotwell,
Here.
Sonal Kulkarni.
Sonal is present,
just
but just
stepped
stepped out to use the restroom, so you could note when she returns, if you don't mind, so that we can review our agenda. As always, we will start with an invitation for public comment. Then we will move on to our public hearing on the fiscal year 25 budget. At that time, we'll declare the hearing open. We'll have the budget memo and presentation. We will have public comment on that, and then we will declare the hearing closed. We have 2 items for action. We have the approval of some new hires that we will welcome to the district, as well as the approval of the non-union ESP compensation. Following that, we will adjourn, and we are looking forward to starting off with the public hearing on the fiscal year 25 budget. It is 7:48. We declare the hearing open. And I will turn it
No.
over for the budget memo and presentation.
Hold on. Did you do the invitation for public comment?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I really did skip it. My apologies. Going back to number 2, this is our invitation for public comment.
On the board meeting, and then there'll be one.
And then there's another one for the budget hearing. Thank you. Okay, seeing none, going once. Okay, now we will ask for the memo and presentation on the budget.
Again, Dan presented the memo that was very comprehensive. We have 3 slides that will be ready for the public. I don't have the, okay. Thank you. I appreciate your help. Again, one thing that Dan put in his memo is this is very close to the tentative budget. He simply updated this budget with the new information in terms of the contract settlement with the ESP and some more refined information we have on CPPRT, as well as projecting continued increases in our revenue that we get from our interest income. Okay, next slide, please. Again, so from memory, here's the major assumptions that he's bringing to our attention. We know the CPI for next year will be 5%. We are also projecting interest income to continue to be significantly higher than it has in the past 3 years. And we also received information in the last week or 2 that our CPPRT will be decreasing and starting to go back down to what was our previous approximately $1 million a year. The fact that it's been up between 2 and 3 million for the last 2 years, while we've put that money to good use, Dan has been very conservative and not building in a large excess into our budget. In terms of assumptions for the expenditures, we've taken into account all of the staffing plans, the union contracts, and the raises that have already been brought to you. One significant increase is the medical insurance, our PPO for next year. The cost will be up 9.9%, and the HMO will be up 7.1%. Next slide. So again, you had a very comprehensive list of budget charts that Dan made available to you. This one on one slide puts together some of the key information. Highlighted, you see that the total percent increase in revenue from our local tax base, our state income, and our federal resources will be 5.13%. You'll see that our expenses, and again, all of these have been updated to reflect the newly adopted collective bargaining agreements, will be increasing by 4.98%. So our surplus for this budget right now, as presented, would be $861,000. Again, trying to make sure that we're continuing to maintain that surplus so we can keep our fund balance in that healthy above the 25% range that our policy requires. Next slide. Oh, that is, okay, I thought there was one more, sorry, I thought there was three. So Bryant and/or I can take any questions that you have, if there are any. I know that Dan's been able to answer most of the questions at some of the previous meetings, but Bryant and I can take a stab.
So the memo that was attached was pretty comprehensive, and I know that all of our members had a chance to read that, and if we have questions, now's the time.
Yeah, I think I had a question for Dan that he's asked for more info that I need to provide is there's a long list of purchase services and some of them were obvious based on the title. Like you could say it's, for example, it's for AP testing. Yeah, I know what that's for, but we had a lot of other items that just said purchase services and I was looking for anything that's greater than 30,000 or greater than 29,000 to understand what that purchase service is for. So
We can bring that in for, I think, again, with him being gone, knowing what dollar amount you want. Again, I think on the way he runs these budgets, it's that much information. But we do require all of the people who build a budget to put in a descriptor for those things. So it'll take a little while to pull that report, but we can do that.
and like when we look at supplies and materials, I mean, there is confidence that the lab stuff, for example, materials and such that teachers are asking for, that there is adequate coverage for this, right? I'm just asking about
Well, it
making
did
sure that they
increase,
have what they
right,
need.
it did increase by 8%.
Yeah.
And we worked very closely with the department chairs who were able, all of the reports that we received were that they were able to meet all of the needs they needed for classroom supplies.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, is there any public comment on the fiscal year 25 budget? Is there any further discussion or questions from the board? Okay, then we will declare the public hearing on the fiscal year 25 budget closed at 7:54 PM. Moving on to items for action. We have the approval of some new hires.
Sorry, I'm navigating two screens here. Yeah, the reason that we are bringing some new hires here on June 10th on a special board meeting is that we are hiring a few individuals that are currently working at other school districts. And so we would like to recommend them for approval at this meeting so that there are other schools already know that they're getting, being hired by us, but then they can officially resign from their schools. And then they can start their hiring process. And so items to note there, we are recommending Jennifer Loika to replace Ray Albin as our next Associate Principal of Teaching and Learning here at Libertyville High School.
Congratulations, Jennifer.
So that would be the action, and then also the update on the positions for the support plan.
Yeah, so if we, going back to your question on some of the hiring updates that we have at Libertyville High School, we are hiring a lab math tutor, a lab English tutor. So we still have a science tutor position available at Libertyville.
So those are filled.
The math and the English are filled at Libertyville. And then at Vernon Hills, we are recommending a science tutor. On this one, we will be bringing at the next board meeting an English tutor, and then we still have an opening for a math tutor. Some of our other positions then, we're still working on the resource executive functioning tutors at both buildings, and then our part-time math, English, and science tutor at Vernon Hills, and our math and science tutor at Libertyville. And so, but we are moving on these positions, I think, for being the beginning of June. And we still have some work to do, but we have more applicants coming in. We have applications coming in every day, and we're sending this information out to our current employees, to retirees, to our substitutes. We've been putting it on the Regional Office of Education. Actually gave us a nice little front page link to our website to get applications, and then we're going to be doing some more advertising coming up for our positions.
And what about the stipend for our certified staff?
So we're still working with the union on the stipend positions.
And do we think we'll have a solid update by the next board meeting?
That's our hope, yes.
And these tutor positions, again, are to be full-time in the lab. They are not certified teachers, right?
Correct. What we're
But they're-
hoping to have retired teachers
Yeah.
or something like that would be something we would be looking for, but these positions aren't certified.
And these are lab positions where students are going to be self-directed to the lab, right? So this is support for students who self-initiate getting support through the lab? Or is this assigned is this also going to be one of the positions that would be assigned by their classroom teacher?
Yeah, both.
Both, yeah.
So we would be hiring ESP instructional aid positions that would be in place to support students who are self-directing, going to the MASH and the ARC to get support for their classes. We want to build out the amount of people who are in there to meet the needs of students. And then we are also hiring ESP to support the 9th grade lab, math, science, and English, where students would be assigned to go there by their classroom teacher to get more intensive tier 2 support.
And that's what we're agreeing to today. These positions will fulfill at LHS, the math lab and the English lab, right?
Correct, yes.
And I have to ask this, do these math teachers for the 9th graders, for example, would they also support a geometry honors? That's my favorite class to always bring up because it's not an easy transition for the best of math kids.
Yeah, possibly. So their primary focus is going to be on the 9th grade college prep Algebra 1 class. And we've set up teachers with FTE to work with them to make sure that they are delivering tier 2 instruction that is aligned to what the class goals and skills are. However, that is primarily going to be designed to be run during lunch periods. So at LHS periods 3, 4, 5, and 6, and at Vernon Hills periods 4, 5, and 6. Now, those people are full-time employees, so they will also be here during periods 1 and 2 and periods 7 and 8. And what we are working on, they will have a lunch, and they'll have a break. But when they are in the MASH or ARC and they are not directly assigned to the freshman lab, we believe we will have the opportunity to have them work with other math students, which could be some geometry honors. The person we hired, I can't speak for Vernon Hills. I haven't met their person yet. The person we've hired at LHS is able to focus and support kids throughout the entire math curriculum.
Okay. I mean, I'd like, as this gets firmed up, I'd like more details because it's not enough that the tutor is available. The students also have to be available to actually get help. And especially if we have, increased the number of geometry honors classes.
Correct. So the other,
So-
right. So we have the 9th grade lab that I just spoke about. Then we are adding we're hiring more ESPs with science, English, and math background And those positions are being designed to be here during lunch periods at Vernon Hills and at LHS. And that's where we would be working to build out our supports for some of the students in geometry honors. What we've done, geometry honors may be the course, it may not be. We're having our department chairs look at the courses that they believe have the greatest amount of diagonal movers, where they believe the support will be needed, where they're anticipating it being needed the most, and starting to look at how the aides we would be hiring would be working to support students in those classes. We also, remember, have teachers who are assigned to be in the MASH and the ARC by their duties. So we are in the process of going through our master schedule and creating our draft of which teachers are going to be available at which time, so we know which levels of support we would have in the MASH for students as well.
Okay, then I think follow-up would be, I think, Kara, what you asked for is I'd also like to know which of these more advanced classes have more enrollment this year than they've had before. And consequently, what's the support plan for those classes?
AP Psych or Human Geo.
And we've actually not had any direct support for AP classes. The discussion has been a lot on college prep. AP has been left out, understandably. That's why I think having AP at 9th grade, personally, I think is not a good idea. They're intended to be college level, more independent study. But that's just
I
my
respectfully
personal-
just disagree a little bit that we
Okay.
haven't talked about AP. If you remember, while our primary focus was on supporting students in the 9th grade lab, what we had discussed was building out our MASH was the way that we support AP honors diagonal moving students. Because if you are a student going into a honors or an AP class, you are choosing to go to an advanced level course. And while you will need support, it shouldn't be at the tier 2 level of intensive small group support. There will be students who struggle in that way, but our primary support for honors and AP is going to be through increasing the level of support that is in the MASH and the ARC. So when students who are in those classes begin to struggle, they will have people in the building who will be connected to them during the times they are free, in addition to their teachers who can help support their academic needs.
So for AP though, I mean, let's put honors aside, but don't you have to be an AP teacher or know the AP curriculum to help a student in an AP class?
Depends. I would say you have to know the AP curriculum in general. You may have to know a specific skill that AP is looking for. It depends on what the student is seeking. Like if I'm in AP Human Geo, I might need help in learning to write a specific essay that would be mimicking what the AP exam would help me learn to write. I don't necessarily need to be an AP Human Geo teacher to do that. I just need to be familiar with the way that AP Social Studies is asking students to write so that I can assist them with that. There are some students who may need help on specific content. So, for example, there might be a lab in AP Environmental Science that a student needs support with and help with. Not knowing that lab, not knowing the intricacies of the curriculum there, it would be harder for a tutor to help support a student, and it would take time then to kind of unpack, well, show me the lab, show me what you need to do, show me the instructions. Ideally, it's always best if a teacher knows the curriculum and knows exactly the types of work that students are doing. But a skilled tutor, it's impossible for any one person to know every single class in our building. And so they will, with time and with working with the student and with the teachers, learn for this specific assignment or this specific activity, this is what students need to be able to do.
So for some classes, that may be okay and not for others, right? I mean, if you're looking at an example of AP Physics, you can't just have a tutor who's never done physics teach that. So it's not sort of a universal truth. I think for some, it might be. I mean, history as an example, yes, you don't need to be a history SME subject matter expert, but you need comprehension and writing skills. But not the same deal for a STEM class or a math class where you actually need to know the specific skill and be able to teach someone. So I don't want to debate that. I'm not an educator by any means, but I'm a parent and I do see where my kids have had challenges in one versus the other. It depends.
Yes.
I just would like to have an understanding of where we've got more skill-based classes that have increased, like math is a clear example. STEM classes, which are building skills. If you don't get Algebra 1, you're not going to get Algebra 2. Those types of classes where we've had an increase both from incoming ninth graders and diagonal movers, and what are the supports? Because I know not all AP classes can be supported by someone who is not actually skilled and proficient in that AP class. Some yes, some no.
Yeah.
That's the part I'd like
I think
to
in general, that is going to be at the highest level of the AP curriculum, not in where the majority of our students are at. And I heard very clearly your questions. Brian and I were writing down those questions. We will work with Dr. Herman and be able to provide the board with the information that is being requested for sure.
Thank you.
Can I add one more since we're talking about it on the list of, the presentation? I know we talked about, taking all of the line items away from our conversation. When we started talking about APA and started talking about EOS and heterogeneous, we had 3 directives. 1, the scope and sequence was not going to change. 2, we couldn't do it without support. And 3, how do we balance the message of our students that are telling us that they're overwhelmed already with now we're going to place them in? Those were our 3 kind of like true north, that those things we had to address. So is there some mechanism that and I kind of brought it up last month. We know our teachers are going to differentiate. We know they're also going to be supporting students. I also agree with you, Don, that that's part of who we are as teachers. We support our students. But is there some mechanism that we can have some tracking of how much are our teachers having to support outside of the classroom students that are in their classroom that are atypical? I don't know what that looks like, but I would like us to start thinking about how can we measure, track what our teachers are having to do outside of that student's classroom time that would be atypical from what they had done prior to us doing these initiatives, so that we can see that we are not overburdening. I don't think we are, and I don't think our teachers are asking not to differentiate or not to support their students, but something has to give.
Well, as a board, you've asked for us to develop very clear metrics on how we are not only measuring the impact of these new placement programs, but at the same point, how we are measuring the impact of the support programs we are creating. That extends to staff as well as to students. So I think our teaching and learning team is very committed to developing those metrics. And what you're saying here is there a way for us to think about what is the impact beyond what a teacher may be accustomed to with this increase in students who are going to be in some of the honors and AP classes or diagonally moving? How does that shape the way our math teachers, for example, who are already in their classes every day before school, working with students, every day during their lunches, working with students, are they seeing a change in the volume and the types of needs that students have and their workload?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's exactly, yeah.
Okay, moving back to our agenda. Did you have something?
So we
else?
do, we do have a recommendation.
We have a
a motion.
recommendation. I think
We have a
need
recommendation, yeah, we are looking for a motion to approve the new hires as listed.
Carmichael, so moved.
Thank you.
Drumkey, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please, whenever you're ready.
Kara Benjamin,
Aye.
Don Carmichael,
Aye.
Kara Drumkey,
Aye.
Lisa Hessel,
Aye.
Middlesh Cotwell,
Aye.
Sanal Kulkarni.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to item B for action, the non-union ESP compensation. We have a memo from Bryant and Dan. Bryant, do you want to summarize this for us?
Yes. Why isn't this letting me go to the next item?
The system's a little slow. It's thinking. It's not you.
I couldn't get it on mine either. Why don't you just use this?
I can't get it. Okay.
Here's the people, the memo, if you want to look at that.
Okay.
Here's the first
Got it?
one.
Now I'm good.
Working Great.
So is mine. I was just trying to make it feel better.
It's usually me.
I couldn't see the cafeteria options.
No,
It was
I-
teeny. I had to
I'm
switch
trying to take
my
this motion.
device.
Sorry.
To me,
I'm trying
earlier
to-
today, I had to restart my computer.
Who seconded that last one? That was,
I Drumkey seconded.
hit save. There it goes. Okay. It did not save on me. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So if we look at our, let's kind of look at everything that we've done with recommendations. So the board and the ESP union came to an agreement on a contract. However, if you recall, there are some of our ESP positions that are not in the union. Positions, not people. So there were positions that were designated to be non-union positions. They could be supervisory positions. For example, our B&G assistant directors, our campus safety supervisors, our IT coordinators. They're overseeing other ESP, so they can't be in the union. We also have individuals that are confidential employees, and they're working alongside a lot of us in the district office and helping to prepare for negotiations. So that's these positions that we are making recommendations for. The recommendations are very similar to what was approved in the ESP contract. So increasing our sick leave. Really, it was for our, most of these positions are 12-month positions. There actually were 2 campus safety supervisors. They actually are teacher day positions. And so they don't work in the summer. So they were increasing their sick leave to 14 days, keeping our 403B matching. The retirement incentive for ESP that we talked about with the 2-year notice, putting that in place. Medical insurance, no changes for next year. We've already gone through open enrollment. And then looking for the next 2 years is that our PPO 750 HMO, our base plans and buy-up difference, but also that they would get, if they move to those plans, they would get $1,000 into their health savings account. Tuition reimbursement increased to $3,500. So one of the things, though, that we looked at with this group, we need to look at our starting salary rates for this group. And so we looked at putting that for next year. Part of our ESP negotiations was negotiating the starting rates for our support staff. So this group, we want to look at doing that the following year. And so that determined our raises at this time. So the raises look a little different than the ESP contract, but that was because overall in the ESP, there were some salary rates, starting rates that were increased, and so individuals got different increases. So we want to do the one-time payment for these 15 individuals for FY24. FY25 then for next year is a 4.34% raise with all of our current longevity languages that's in place, so across the board. And then FY26 would be to be determined. And that's how it is also because it's tied in with CPI when you're going forward. So that's our recommendation.
Questions? I think this is looking very similar to what we did for ESP, and it makes sense that we would do the same thing for that same group of employees where their positions are not in the union.
Mhm.
Okay, questions?
Carmichael, move to approve the non-union ESP compensation as listed.
Benjamin, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call when you're ready.
Kara Benjamin,
Aye.
Don Carmichael,
Just as a point of order, you have to rotate.
Yeah.
the,
I didn't wanna
so
say
you-
it.
You have to do me first.
it was supposed to rotate automatically. It didn't do it that time?
No,
It
it
didn't.
hasn't. Yeah, you started with Kara.
I will start again. Don Carmichael,
Aye.
Kara Drumkey,
Aye.
Lisa Hessel,
Aye.
Middlesex Cotwell,
Aye.
Sanal Kulkarni,
Aye.
Kara Benjamin.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are now looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Carmichael, move to adjourn.
Thank you. Hessel, second.
We can
Oh,
take a-
we can do all in favor voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.